because I always feel I have a lot of grandchildren and some great-grandchildren because I've been doing this for 50 years, so it's been a while. I always tell them, if you become a mature adult in the coming years and you're hopeful about the future, you have to think about what hope means today and in the future. It's not just about the future, it's today. What am I hoping for today?
Kwe Tansei Sego Ani Buju. Hello and bonjour. Kwe Nindaluizi Pam Palmater. My name's Pam Palmater, and I am the host of the Warrior Life podcast. My home community is Eel River Bar First Nation, also known as Ugbaganjig, and I come from the sovereign unceded territory of Mi'kma'ki. And I am so excited for this week's Warrior Life podcast because I had the opportunity to actually talk to someone that I have admired for such a long time, Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Mary Simon, Governor General of Canada. And today, we are actually here in Ottawa on the Governor General's residence grounds, and it has been such an amazing experience. She showed us all around the residence so that we could see all the different Indigenous artwork and the history. It was just an amazing experience. But the most important part of this is that we got to sit down and have an amazing conversation about her life's work representing the Inuit, working with Inuit all over the world, and of course now in her role as Governor General of Canada. And I think most importantly, we got to hear from her about what she thinks reconciliation is and what some of her hopes and dreams are for the future. It's an amazing interview, so stay tuned, check it out.
So my name is Mary Simon. I'm from Kuujjuaq in Nunavik. I've been the Governor General since 2021. It's a place where I really enjoy talking to Canadians, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, trying to bridge the world a little bit to help with the work that we've undertaken, which is called reconciliation. It's a broad word, but it has a lot of meaning to it, and the more you get into it, I think the more meaningful it becomes. So I've had the privilege of working in this area. Been here 4 years already. Time flies. Mary Wunga kan Kuujjuaq mi yautunga man takani kana yaktunga binasutunga antanakjua mi kikatukti yautunga.
Wonderful. And I know, Your Excellency, you've been in this position for 4 years, but you have a really long history in various leadership positions and advocacy and a lot of public education on Inuit issues. I'd love to hear more about this history because I remember you when you were leading the Inuit organization and advocating for, to address the environment. And I believe you're even working on some circumpolar issues. So I'd love to hear about that.
Actually started in the Nunavik region at a young age, about 28. Got involved in the political development of our region. I started just as they had signed the Comprehensive Land Claims Agreement, the James Bay Northern Quebec Agreement. So I worked with the board and the team to create all these new institutions that were envisaged through the agreement. So we created Makivik, which is an ethnic organization that represents the people of Nunavik. And there I was a board member and then a vice president and then the president. So that's how my political career started. It was, I did work for CBC for a while before that in Montreal. We used to have Inuktitut programming coming out of Montreal Northern Service, and it was done through shortwave radio. So we, two of us, we used to report, because there were no phones, no way of communicating with the northern communities. When people went to the hospital, they had no way of connecting with their families. So the families were always calling us to find out how the members were that were in the hospital for different reasons. And we would find out and we would report it on the radio. So we did this reporting on the radio of how people were doing in wherever they were, Montreal, Ottawa, in different hospitals. So that was kind of the beginning of my career was then. Although I did work for the Hudson Bay Company at one point earlier when I was a student. And then after I worked at Makivik and did the political implementation issues, got involved in the national level at ITK. So I was the president of ITK for six years. And one of the things that I'm very proud of that we did is the national strategy on Inuit education. We developed that with the involvement of Inuit regions in the north, as well as the provincial governments and the territorial government. So it was a document that was agreed to by all parties. And ITK still uses that, a very important foundational document. So I'm always so glad that we were able to do that. And the impetus was for me to do it because when the government apologized on the residential schools in 2008, when I responded to the apology to Prime Minister Harper, I said that the apology had to be more concrete, that we had to do something concrete. And through education, we could provide that, the promise that things would get better. It actually destroyed our culture and our people through residential schools. But then we could also use it as a way of bringing back our culture and our identity. We did that work, and I deposited a copy that was covered with sealskin into the Bentwood box of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So it's in the Bentwood box. So I'm really happy about that. And then I did a lot of international work through the Inuit Circumpolar Council. And in fact, I was the Canadian Inuit representative that negotiated the charter for the ICC. So I worked with Greenland and Alaska prior to the formal meeting of the council, because it was called the Inuit Circumpolar Conference when I was president. The very first meeting in 1977 was to get the people together, all the Inuit from different countries. And then from there we negotiated the charter. So we formalized ICC in 1980. And then I was a council member, and then in 1986 I was asked to develop an Arctic policy for the Inuit of the Arctic, and so I did, and I got convinced to run for president. So I was president for a long time, from 1986 to 1992. So that was kind of the part of my life that I wasn't involved in government, or I was sort of the advocate of the Inuit, and I also did the constitutional negotiations during the 80s when Canada and England repatriated our constitution. Indigenous people had the opportunity to get something into that document. So I was one of the people that we worked really hard, and we were able to get some recognition. We wanted more, but you have to build these things. So that's been kind of my career before I became ambassador for Circumpolar Affairs, which I worked at Foreign Affairs for 10 years. And my mandate, that I got a letter from the Prime Minister, said that because the government wanted to create an Arctic Council, that I would be the one leading the whole thing. So I had to convince 7 countries to agree to have an Arctic Council, and some of them were reluctant because we already had an environmental protection strategy that was initiated by Finland. So it dealt with environmental issues, but it didn't deal with sustainable development. And the role of Indigenous peoples was very weak and up and down. So when I was asked to negotiate the Arctic Council, I did negotiate it, and we were able to get the member states to agree that Indigenous people had an important role to play. So they have permanent status, permanent participants in the Arctic Council. So that's a new thing at the international level. It doesn't exist anywhere else. So the permanent participants' role is defined in the declaration, which is that they can participate at all levels of the Arctic Council, including the ministerial meetings. So they can sit with the people, with the ministers every 2 years in the Arctic Council. Unfortunately, the Arctic Council is on hold because of the Russia invasion against Ukraine. I'm hoping that it'll come back at some point because the members didn't think it was advisable to continue working with Russia the way things were happening. So that was, they still work at the working group level, but it's not, they don't have ministerial meetings. So I don't know, that's a long story.
It's good to know, though, what happens before you became Governor General, because your life history informs what you do and your priorities and the things that you say. And we all celebrated, of course, when you were appointed as the Governor General. And it was a true representation of how things are changing. There's some people who think like nothing has changed, but all of your work leading up to Governor General it's always been about change. It's like the ecology, the work that you do with the Inuit, the education, the international work. So as Governor General, are you hopeful about reconciliation and that we'll keep making positive changes?
I am, yes. I think it's a difficult conversation. Canada is having a difficult conversation on how do we make this relationship work in a way that will give all of us a place that where we belong equally. And it goes about education, economic opportunities, jobs. There's so many layers to the relationship and the reconciliation. When you work with that idea of reconciling, you have to really think through the depths of what it all means. Because a lot of people say to me, what can I do on reconciliation? It's not a project. It's a way of a relationship. And it's a way of, equality, recognizing people for their own culture and their own languages. I also work on diversity and inclusion, which is non-Indigenous, because we have many Canadians from other parts of the world. And that also kind of, I deal with it in almost similar ways, because it's also about building relationships. And I always use a very simple concept when people talk to me on, like at the events like tomorrow. It's about people getting along and respecting each other. The racism doesn't have to exist. And it's about you and me getting to know each other and living side by side and being respectful of who you are and what your culture is and your language, and not try and get rid of it. I think that's really what it is. Reconciliation is a very complex thing, and each different authorities are working on it. Like in the workplace, some organizations are embracing reconciliation, and they've developed it into their programming in different areas. Like I've often talked to a dear friend of mine who is Métis, and she's always sitting on, boards in banks and different things. And she says, they're all working on incorporating what reconciliation means to their organization. And I think that's what it is. It's to me, it's a lifelong commitment. And I think it's also really important that we teach our younger generations what the history of this country is all about. Because I always feel, I have a lot of grandchildren and some great-grandchildren, because I've been doing this for 50 years, so it's been a while. I always tell them, if you become a mature adult in the coming years, and you're hopeful about the future, you have to think about what hope means today and in the future. It's not just about the future; it's today. What am I hoping for today? I want a good day. I want to have a good day and positive thoughts with the family or with whoever. And I always say to them, if you can learn to be more empathetic and kind and be hopeful, you will become a leader in that way. And we need that. We need the younger generation. We really need that kind of individuals that think that way. That are not always in competition, not always referring to certain individuals as somebody there and somebody over here. It's us. And you can talk about that issue on any issue. You can talk about it at the social level. You can talk about it at the education level, in the workforce, in the workplace. So I think those are really important elements of what reconciliation is.
I appreciate that you talking about it as a relationship, because so many people will say, oh, if you do this, this, and this, you take this course, this training, and doing the box checking, and it's like, okay, I've contributed to reconciliation. But if you talking about it as a relationship and respect and lifelong, I think that puts a different perspective on it. Then it's not a checklist.
It's not a project.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think education, like in the education system, a lot of provinces have incorporated, programs to learn about residential schools. But it's the bigger picture that has to be included. Residential schools started from colonization. It's not just something that happened on its own. And I think I would really like to see Canada develop something that is very comprehensive in terms of its history, and get mandatory in the school system. We used to learn history, but not our history. But I think inclusive history is very doable. It's not to blame anybody. It's the way it was. It's a history that we have to recognize and acknowledge and move forward. And that's the most important part to me, is to keep moving forward until things are more like agreeable to people.
It's true, and when you think about all of the progress, sometimes someone might lose a court case, or someone might not, get an amendment in a piece of legislation, and then it feels like, oh, nothing is changing. But in fact, so much is changing. The fact that I'm talking to you here as Her Excellency, the Governor General of Canada, that is something I would never have imagined happening when I was a little girl. Is that something that you ever envisioned, that you would be the Governor General?
No. I didn't actually ever envision being a Governor General. But when I was asked if I would do this, there was some, a few comments on social media about not, shouldn't be doing this. But my approach to this whole thing is to use this amazing position as a way of reaching out to people and to talk to people about the future of the country, the future of Indigenous people, and what are we all striving for, and it has really given me that opportunity. And also the other thing that I said when I was commented directly to me, I said, the Indigenous people, every single one, out west, east, middle of the country, they still have a strong relationship with the Crown. They just want to fix it. Yeah. But they have a strong relationship with the Crown, and they don't want to let it go, because the alternative is not so obvious, right? And building that relationship, I think, is critical. I know that some Indigenous people don't necessarily adhere to that idea, but that's them. Like they can express exactly how they feel and continue to fight for that place that they feel they have, and that's okay. It's fine to have strong views on what our country is about. This country is made up of strong views. And I think the Crown is a place where a long time ago that contact was made, and in this day and age it has changed. So that change has to be captured in Canada.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to understand we're not all one monolith. First Nations, Inuit, Métis, even amongst First Nations, how many different nations there are. So of course we're gonna have different opinions. Some, like I'm from the Mi'kmaq Nation, we have treaties direct with the Crown, treaties. So the Crown means something different to maybe
to everybody
that don't, or even Canadians who don't understand that.
That's right.
Yeah. So then I think about your role and how symbolic it is, the fact that we can represent ourselves everywhere, inside government, outside government, international level. And you seem to be doing it all. And I am so honored that you sat down to talk with us about it. And I would love to hear if you have hopes and dreams for Canada, for what the future generation, what you envision for Canada going forward. That would really represent true reconciliation.
So that's a perfect place for me to just make a comment about yesterday. I was involved in a session, international session, and it was streamed throughout the world at different embassies. And I was able to talk about reconciliation, and that, to me, that was a really great opportunity, just to have that type of venue to talk to people that are representing us in the world, and my dream, we all dream, right? We all dream for a perfect life, which is hard work. We have to work hard at having a good life, all of us. And, having come from a little village of Kangaswalutuak, or born at a Hudson Bay Post, I had to live through those difficulties, but what you make of them and gives you the opportunity to grow from whatever adversity you're being confronted with, I think is a key to, like, a really healthy nation, and to have strong leadership. And I'd like to see a more equality in the country, more opportunities for young people to have jobs and education. Whether you're Indigenous Canadian or any other Canadian, that opportunity should be the same across our country. And the hope, I hope for that, and I think it's achievable. We just have to make sure that the next generation is really like they understand what the country is about and how we need to engage them. Like my biggest thing with young people right now is to try and engage them in meetings. Like when I was first a political person, not in government, but we used to have these little organizations representing youth. So we would have our board meetings, and the youth would be sitting along the sides listening to the conversation or the meeting, never asked to speak. And I realized after some time that, and I realized this when I was doing this report for the government, shared partnership report that I did in 2017. I had meetings with young people up north. They were more verbal than the older, mature people about the education system, about water, about everything. They were like, we want change, we want change. And I realized then that in any meeting, we should always try and have young people involved, able to speak, not just listen. And I think that's the best way of learning, that's the best way of learning.
Well, that's a good vision for the future. And I can't thank you enough for doing this for National Indigenous Peoples Day this year. Canadians are going to love hearing from you. Indigenous peoples all over Turtle Island will love hearing from you. And for me personally, I just want to thank you for always leading as a strong woman with grace and dignity and compassion. Like, you've been a real role model for so many of us, and it's meant a lot that you represent us so well.
Oh, thank you, Pam.
So thank you. I appreciate it, and all you do, and always be here to support you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
What an amazing interview. She is such a special person. Her Excellency, Mary Simon, the Governor General of Canada, she just has decades and decades of experience, lived experience, knowledge, wisdom, advocating for Inuit people, all Indigenous peoples, and now all Canadians as Governor General. You really could hear from her heart the things that she cared most about for our future. And I think it's also important for those of us who have kids and grandkids that she really wants youth to be included more, because they are not just our future, they're the right now. And I think that's a really special vision for reconciliation. So thank you to all of the listeners, the viewers, and the closed caption readers for always supporting the Warrior Life podcast. And there's so many free ways that you can support it. Share it in your classrooms, pass it on to people, share it on social media. Really listen to the voices of all of these Indigenous warriors, land defenders, water protectors, artists, educators, academics, and amazing leaders like the Right Honourable Mary Simon, the Governor General of Canada. I'm leaving here so inspired, and I know you will all be inspired too, so share this far and wide. Thank you so much for listening. Till next time, keep living a warrior life. Walalia.